Please pray with me. May these words that I speak be grounded in my soul, encouraged by the Spirit in me. And may these words that you hear be captured by your soul, enlivened by the Spirit in you. Amen. I don't know if you noticed, but the artwork that's up there, Margaret found without even knowing where I was going last week with the reflection. But if you look really closely, you can see what are probably dolphins, but anyway, a form of fish swimming within the swirls there. Can you see that? And the notion of water, but also of spirit that is moving in there is just, for me, really profound. And so thank you for finding that. Metaphorically speaking, we are all fish swimming in a big river. That was the center of my reflection last week, and I want to carry on from there this week. I see this as a poetic image that helps us to understand our relationship with the universal spirit, with the spirit of great love, or with the Spirit of God, if you prefer that terminology. This image of a fish in water, of a fish in a river, helps me to remember that I personally, and all things, are not separate from, but part of a universal spirit. Always within, and yet swimming somewhat independently. It is from spirit we are born. It is in spirit that we live, and it is to the universal spirit that we all one day will return. Our work on our human journey is, it seems to me, to deepen our awareness of the Spirit presence in our lives, and then allow that presence to guide our living and our doing in the world. I know that much of what I say week to week, perhaps for some of you all of what I say from week to week, feels foreign, or gets reduced to, oh, he just wants us to love more. I believe the foreign nature of my message has a lot to do with the reality that Protestantism, particularly, became a religion of thinking. A religion of thinking, of believing certain things, taking the Bible literally, or at least the parts we agree with, and we became focused on defining God, on defining Jesus, and on defining what it is to be a good Christian. Most of us here have been raised to think about our faith, and sadly, very few of us have been encouraged to let go of the thinking and learn to experience our faith. The tragedy is that we have lost the very human ability to experience the sacred, to feel the real and powerful presence of God. And this has happened even though this ability to experience presence was at the heart of who Jesus was and what he attempted to pass on to his followers. We need to reclaim experiential faith. We need to learn what it means to be heart-centered. Religion, if it is to survive at all, needs a new modus operandi, a willingness to engage once again in mystery. Richard Rohr, over the past week, has been exploring the role of art in all its forms, poetry and music and painting and sculpture and rap And Richard Rohr talking about rap, can you believe it? Anyway, he was exploring it in terms of the role of art as a way of opening our spiritual experience. And in his piece a few days ago about poetry, he offers this. Before 500 BC, religion and poetry were largely the same thing. People did not presume to be able to define the mystery. They looked for words that could describe the mystery. Poetry doesn't claim to be perfect description, as dogma foolishly does. It's a hint half-guessed, to use T.S. Eliot's phrase. That's why poetry seduces and entices you into being a searcher for the mystery yourself. It creates a heart leap, the gasp of breath, inspiring you to go further and deeper. You want to fill the blanks yourself. Rohr continues, poetry does this by speaking in metaphors. All religious language is metaphor by necessity. Yet I must insist, Rohr says, I must insist on this to every new group of students, especially Protestants, who tend to understand the Bible in a more literal way. Religion points toward a mystery that you don't know, can't know, until you have experienced it. Poetry gives you resonance more than logical proof. And resonance is much more healing and integrating. When religion becomes mere philosophy, definitions, moralisms, and rituals, it no longer has the power to transform. That's it for Rohr today. And I'm going to digress just for a minute because I want to name something else. This incredible piece of art behind us. A few people this week said, oh, I guess we shouldn't have had that up there when Jim was saying that there weren't going to be flames and rushing wind. No, that's not the point. This is a recapturing of a description of something poetic as a way of saying what spirit is about. This is the spirit in art form. And it is so, so important that it be there. Not as a recreation of an historical event, but an imagining of how the Spirit is at work in our lives and in our world. End of digression. We need to get out of our heads and into our hearts. The irony is that science, where the thinking brain reigns, now recognizes that the heart plays a more central role in our bodies than our brains do. The heart is more central than our brains, folks. The heart starts beating in a fetus before the brain is even formed. And in our life day to day, the heart sends 10 times as much information to the brain as the brain sends to the heart. The heart intuits what is happening well before the brain begins to even analyze it. The heart knows when we are out of balance, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Our socializing systems, educational, political, economic, and yes, even religious, have championed our brains and thinking capabilities at the expense of our intuitive, heart-centered capabilities. It has to stop. Our hearts have taken a back seat to our brains long enough, and we wonder why the world is in so much trouble. Reclaiming our heart center is particularly vital, I believe, because it is in our heart center where the Spirit is most alive and waits for our attention. It is in our hearts, not our brains, that are the birthplace of love, compassion, empathy, peace, hope. We live in a world that has become increasingly less heart-centered in the places it is needed most: our political institutions, our corporate boardrooms, our educational organizations, and our religious establishments. Communities like this one must become heart-centered. Schools of love and compassion, places where the Spirit is experienced, not just thought about. Howard Martin, one of the co-authors of the book Heart Intelligence, writes, "Heart connection is on the rise because people around the world are yearning for it." We are yearning for it, I believe, because we are spiritual beings on a human journey. The yearning is both real and very, very natural. It's in our makeup. It's who we are. Martin continues, "The world's problems are on full display. You only have to turn on the television to be bombarded by the horrific display. Yet many people are sensing a collective global stir that is part of a shift and a transition into a new consciousness based on care, cooperation, and acceptance. It's the process of a new world birthing itself in the midst of an old one. Awareness is shifting. People are changing. Society is transforming, and a new heart intelligence is emerging. We will never, as a species, as a community, or as individuals, bring the kingdom to earth as long as we continue to insist that everything is separate from everything else, including God. And we don't have to literally become fish. We do, however, need to drastically change how we see everything, human and other than human, as fish swimming in a big river. It is only when we begin to see with those eyes that everything and all is sacred, all is spirit-filled, that we can begin to love more fully and live more lovingly in the world. When we choose to live heart-centered, love then grounds all of our decisions. And compassion and empathy create in us a need to act for the greater good. Religious, political, economic, and social institutions may continue to stand rigidly against the impulses and the intuitions of the heart, but if they remain unable to bend towards a paradigm that is love-centered rather than fear-centered, they will perish. They will perish. We see the marks of it. And the fall will be painful, more painful than it needs to be. But fall they will, because the trajectory of the cosmos is towards love, as our science now knows. That the way of the universe is not survival of the fittest, it is survival of the most cooperative, the most compassionate. May we choose to bend and break our hearts wide open so that the Spirit presence may flow from us and through us in the great work of love. I want to invite you to join me now to say together the psalm that Bev read this morning, this beautiful poem, and try not to think about it. Try not to think about it. Don't analyze it. Just let the words enter and feel that in your heart. Let's say this together. Psalm 29. The voice of the Spirit is upon the waters. Love's voice echoes over the oceans and seas. The voice of love is powerful. Majestic is the heart of love. The compassion of the Spirit breaks the bonds of oppression, shatters the chains of injustice.
Love invites all to the dance of freedom, to sing the Spirit's song of truth.
The voice of love strikes with fire upon hearts of stone.
The voice of love uproots the thorns of fear. Love uproots fear in every heart.
The voice of love is heard in every storm and strips the ego bare. And in the heart's chapel all cry, peace and glory forever. The Spirit lives in our hearts.
Love dwells within us forever.
You who awaken to the light of the universal oneness will know the blessed joy of serving in the great work of love. Swimming in the big river, may we know the power, the beauty, and the mystery when we choose to live our lives heart-centered. Amen.